Okay, so you hear me? Hello, everyone. I'd like to start with a question. So please raise your hands. Those of you who in your field, area, topic of research or work, you use something or have something called a model. Okay, thank you very much. So many of you have raised your hands. We've seen many models today, but we can see that in different meanings. I mean, models have been statistics, have been ontologies, graphs, diagrams, equations. So actually, it makes sense to ask, next. Excuse me. Dic next, ja avances. So actually, it makes sense to ask ourselves, what is the common floor for all these options? What is a scientific model? So if you look in the literature, there is not one answer, but a variety of them, but more or less, all of them more or less saying the same, which in a sentence would be that a scientific model is a representation of a real phenomenon in a symbolic, ruled theoretical space. What does it mean? In reality, we have that in a situation, something happens, we call it a phenomenon, and we construct some kind of representation of it, and we expect it to behave as the phenomenon, and that's what we call modeling, and that's what we call a model. I mean, we all do it. This model doesn't exist in the same way the real phenomenon exists. That's why a theoretical space, and somehow it's built by symbols that we compute and we make use. So it's a ruled symbolic theoretical space. A thing which has not been paid much attention in the literature, I think, is the spectrum of a phenomenon. The spectrum, it means like the different options or states the phenomenon can take. For instance, let's look at the weather. It may be sunny, rainy, cloudy, hot, cold, sunny. This is the spectrum. There's different options, yeah? The spectrum is key for modeling because if the weather was always the same, it was always sunny, we wouldn't care about modeling. So for a model, we need a spectrum, yeah, on the phenomenon. I work, for instance, in another field with neuroimages, yeah? So here you have a model of the different distributions of the tissues within a brain, another model. So the point of my presentation is that the spectrum of phenomenon can be seen as fuzzy sets. What are fuzzy sets? Fuzzy sets come from fuzzy logic. Fuzzy logic is a branch of mathematics, which is involved with things that it's not that they're true or false, but they can be partially true. I mean, the degree of truth it's graded between 0 and 1. For instance, if I say Gabriel, which is me, is tall, well, yes, it's true, but I'm not an NBA player. I mean, it's not 0 or 1. We could say 0.75, and we will be happy with it. This is the idea of fuzzy logic, and it's very suitable for representing things such as similarity, which is a notion we all have, places where we have partial truth, uncertainty, etc. That's about fuzzy logic. So the spectrum of a phenomenon, which is the different sets it can take, if we try to represent it in our model as classical sets, that won't work. If we take a look at the weather, and yesterday it was either raining and snowing, and it's not one or the other. If you try to look at it in the classical way, that's not working. But if you look at it as a fuzzy thing, as fuzzy sets, it does work. And I think that's very interesting. Like, all of us are using models, and somehow we have a framework where fuzzy logic can be applied in all these situations, yeah? And with this understood as fuzzy sets, we can do like all the techniques, standard techniques from fuzzy logic can be used in different contexts, yeah, to build distance functions, similarity relations, etc. And actually, that's what I'm doing on my PhD. As I told you, I work with this applied on analysis of neuroimages, of MRIs. And well, here you have the segmentation of the 3 tissues of the model I showed to you before, using these kind of ideas and something more. So thank you for your attention.